So why don't we get into what really matters, which is the announcements from the Game Awards. Tons of stuff once announced. Tons of stuff. So, and it's funny, was Keeley was saying, "Oh, this is gonna be a much shorter Game Awards this year," and I called it too. It's like, yeah, by 5 minutes. So
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he ended up clearing up his mention about the Game Awards being shorter later on by saying, "Hey, I know that I said that the Game Awards will be shorter, but to clarify, the Game Awards will be, I guess you could say, more focused," was what he should have said, because he had clarified that, hey, yeah, so we will focus on, just big awards and major announcements, and less on the smaller stuff. This wasn't me saying, hey, we're not gonna do musical performances or anything like that. And in all honesty, he should have just led with that in the first place, instead of saying, oh yeah, it'll be shorter.
Yeah, because it really was not shorter at all. So I was a little surprised by that. But okay, let's get into the announcements that happened. We'll go through some small ones first. Returnal's confirmed for PC. The big thing that was announced this past week is the requirements for the game, which I don't know if you heard this, but the requirements are pretty steep. It's requiring or recommending, I think, 32 megs of RAM or 32 gigs of RAM in order to actually play the game. So I'm okay, but I already have Returnal on PS5. But man, 32 gigabytes of RAM? Holy crap. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when I saw the mention of 32 gigs of RAM, I was just like, wow, that's a bit steep. Not too sure about many people, because I know for the longest while the zeitgeist has been, oh yeah, you don't need more than 16 gigs of RAM. If you're loading your system with like 32 or, God forbid, 64 gigs of RAM, then you're wasting money, because that's overkill. And that has always been kind of the general zeitgeist of things. And I'd been kind of in that same mindset of, okay, probably true. So, no big deal, whatever. And then seeing that get dropped, I was just like, ooh, whoa, yeah, that's quite a steep requirement. So, just this is a bit interesting that they're going that far, but maybe it's just how the system uses things. I don't know. I know in my case, I'm much like you. My gaming laptop has a whopping 64 gigs of RAM. So I mean, I'm more than covered for that, unless it needs like insane DDR5 RAM for some reason.
Well, it needs recommended, it needs a 2070 Super.
Yep, I'm out, because my machine's got a 1080 GTX.
Yeah. So, and that's a game that requires the animation to be very smooth. So it can't be hitchy at all, or you're going to lose your run. So I would say, unless you have a beefy PC, you might not want to bother at this point. But we'll move on from there. Street Fighter VI's release date was confirmed for June. And they also showed off 4 new characters. I want to just say DJ looks freaking cool. Like, the 4 characters they showed off look pretty cool, but I was really happy with what they did with DJ. Now, I'll probably never play as DJ, because I'm not a person who likes charge characters, but I am becoming more and more impressed with how they are aesthetically showing off the old characters in the game. I'm really curious to see what they do with Cammy specifically. So, other than that, good.
The irony of the announcement was the fact that one day before the Game Awards, the English PS4 store had accidentally turned on the page to pre-order Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
And then once somebody noticed it and was like, oh, shit, and went to try to turn it off, as always, just the internet is forever. So someone caught it and then was just like, hey guys, I think this was going to be announced at the Game Awards, but just looks like the release date is gonna be early June, and of course everyone's just like, yeah, watch this be announced at the Game Awards, and sure enough, that was exactly what happened. It was like, no, well, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, but I can't wait. Well, God, June is going to be a busy month, but I can't wait to play that. That's going to be awesome. Dead Cells cross Castlevania crossover DLC. Dead Cells Return to Castlevania. It's coming early next year. I mean, Dead Cells is a game that a lot of people enjoy, me included. But I'm kind of surprised that they're still tacking on DLC to this game.
Yeah, the community for the game is quite huge, so
Okay.
I mean, I imagine the community is probably overjoyed because they're just like, sweet, more content for this game. Love it. Can't get enough of it. But yeah, I imagine anyone who might be on the casual side might just be like, "Oh, that's neat," but just I have since moved on to other games.
Well, not even just that. I mean, this would be something that I would say, business-wise, would make a smart standalone game to me. So I don't, unless they do something ingenious with the DLC. Like, not that I don't see the point. I get the crossover appeal, but this would be something that I wouldn't mind them to say, "Oh, we're making a standalone thing for this, and it's $10, and there you go." Like that, I think would be a cool thing. But for it to be DLC, then that means my assumption is that in order to get to that content, you have to beat the already done content on Dead Cells, and that takes a while in Dead Cells, as good as it is. So I don't know. I would have preferred that to be just a standalone thing, but we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Let's get into some of the announcements that happened. Hades 2 was announced from Supergiant Games. This is their first sequel they've made to any of their games. And I am kind of mixed on this. I know people are excited for this game, and I understand why, because Hades was a really good game. But the thing with Supergiant is that they make different types of games on each game they're doing. And I'm afraid this is going to be a cash grab. I would love to be wrong, but what other innovations could they come up with this type of roguelike action game that hasn't been done? Or are they just going to go and do the same thing, but maybe a little more in depth that they did in Hades 1? Because call me crazy, but I don't think anybody is really asking for another Hades. Yeah, maybe some are excited, but to me, it's like Hades wasn't a flash in the pan thing. It deserved the praise it got. It was very good. But I don't hear more people saying, "Man, I would really want more Hades." I think they were very satisfied with what they got. So, what are your thoughts?
I mean, Hades, I thought was an interesting enough game. I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm not opposed to more Hades 2, but I know it was just kind of like, oh, neat, interesting.
Yeah.
I know some people who just absolutely adored the hell out of Hades have just been like, "Oh my god, this is the best thing. This is Christmas for me." It's just like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's neat.
I just hope that Supergiant Games is doing something else on the side. Because what makes them interesting is that even with how successful their games are, like, we haven't seen a sequel to Bastion or Transistor, and I would say that I think they are more celebrated, especially Bastion. Bastion was a big deal when it came out. For them to do one of Hades, and especially so soon, is just a little odd to me. But hey, maybe they will come up with something different that I haven't thought of. And maybe that's why they decided to do Hades 2. That's the other thing, too. To call it Hades 2 when it's clearly not about Hades is another thing where I'm like, you couldn't come up with something else? But okay. Or X-Person, a Hades adventure or something. Because, yeah, I understand that you have to have Hades on there. But it would be kind of weird to call it Hades 2 and Hades isn't in the game. So,
Yeah.
We will move on. BioShock creator Ken Levine's studio, his latest game is Judas. Judas was an interesting looking game. I rewatched it last night when I was downloading videos. Not much in the terms of gameplay or anything really, but it seems to have like a dark-ish sense of humor. So I'm definitely interested in it. My question is, one, when is it coming out? It's probably like 2023, but there has been rumors upon rumors that 2K is developing a BioShock sequel. If it is true, would 2K decide to try and release that around the time Judas comes out? Or will they give that game... Bearing in mind, if Judas is going to be anything like BioShock, will it be something that will pretty much will make Judas seem like lesser, or take the eyes away from it? Is my question. But it looks interesting to me.
As someone who enjoyed Bioshock 1 and 2 and was kind of lukewarm on Bioshock Infinite, this one looks interesting. And yeah, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on Judas to see how it ends up ultimately panning out. So, yeah, I will be watching that one with a lot of curiosity.
Yeah. I would like to know more about it. But since it's Ken Levine, and you were lukewarm on that is right. You were pretty lukewarm on Infinite. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun enough, but it was just kind of like the story was not, in my opinion, not as strong as like Bioshock 1 and 2.
Okay.
So, but I know that that's kind of the general opinion of most people who played a lot of the Bioshock games. So I know I'm generally not alone on the opinion.
Next thing we have here, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League had a cinematic trailer where the only thing they announced was that Kevin Conroy will be voicing Batman for the last time, which is nice, is sweet and all, but we kind of really need gameplay for this, and this is due out. Is it scheduled for when was it? It was Suicide Squad is
sometime next year.
I thought I heard June.
I want to say June was the target timeline for it, but nope. Right before June, May 26th of 2023.
Okay, either they gotta show off some gameplay, or this is going to be delayed until the end of the year. Because for this to be May, and we didn't get any gameplay. Oh, apparently there is a gameplay trailer of sorts on the site itself, but that was a while ago. They need to show more of this. But until then, I'm going to bet that this gets delayed. But unless we start seeing more in, let's say, February, March, that's my thought on it. But it looks, there's not much to go by here, but it's cool, I guess. I mean, we'll see what they do with it. More to add.
That was kind of my opinion on it. I was like, oh, neat trailer. Sweet little tribute to Kevin Conroy and everything. And it's kind of interesting that he's voicing Batman posthumously. So, just kind of an interesting little tribute. But just the real question, in my opinion, is just like yours. We need to see some sort of gameplay because, they have some of the smaller gameplay stuff that they had given previews of, but we need to see something a little bit more substantial, especially after just the last Batman game that came out starring the Bat Kids sometime this year landed kind of poorly. So I imagine a lot of the Batman game fans are probably like, yeah, you guys need to show us something substantive because we're not going to, immediately start going, yeah, we got to drop money on this like now.
Yeah. A Bayonetta prequel was announced. Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon. It's coming out in March. It looks like it's a top-down Bayonetta-like game.
Yeah, it's kind of got like a storybook feel to it, and it's kind of like a little top-down sort of action game.
Okay. I mean, that's interesting, and I mean, it's an interesting and different type of look at the type of game Bayonetta is. That's cool, but Something tells me that the developers who made Bayonetta, Platinum, were hoping for a lot more of a warmer reception to Bayonetta 3 for this to be released. So I don't know if this was a great idea to announce and release so soon. I think this probably would have stood to be delayed just for everyone to forget about Bayonetta 3 for a little bit and then maybe release it the following year. But that's me. I think this is going to hurt its sales because I think a lot of people have issues with Bayonetta 3. Either they have issues with how the performance was or how the game didn't look so great, and then there's some silly people who have the issue of her not being gay. But there are enough people who are not satisfied with the game where I think maybe releasing it shortly after Bayonetta 3 may not be such a hot idea.
This would have been kind of better, in my opinion, that much echoes yours, when sort of the hype on Bayonetta 3 has died down, but, that way it could kind of give a nice shot in the arm of, hey, did you like Bayonetta 3? We've got more of that sweet, sweet lore and everything, but, yeah, just a little bit interesting for them to kind of, just drop this announcement there, especially since with the fact that it's a side game, not really a mainline game, I don't feel that there was quite the excitement that Platinum was maybe hoping for it to have.
All right, let us move on to the next one. Last of Us Part 1 was announced for PC coming in March. Surprisingly enough, it's going to be $60.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting. It's nice that some publishers are realizing that maybe they can't get away with price gouging on PC, but what are you going to do? $60 coming on PC, and it's really all there is, unless you have more to add.
The announcement was leaked, I believe, a little while ago, so I think it was more of a matter of when the game was coming out, so good to see a date on it. And I think when me and you were talking during the Game Awards, you had made the comment that the release date is interesting because it is timed right after the HBO TV show ends.
Yes. That's what it seems like. So I don't know exactly how many episodes that the Last of Us season will have, but if it starts in the middle of June, and it's let's say it's 7 or 8 episodes, that's around the time where The Last of Us 1 PC is being released. So that will be interesting to see how the sales go and to see if the word of mouth is good on the Last of Us TV series. So we'll see about that. Star Wars Jedi Survivor gets a March release date, and it had a new gameplay trailer. I mean, it looked just as good as Fallen Order. I mean, I think people are asking for more of that. So that's good. Not really much else to say about it other than that. I mean, it looks like a good one of those.
As someone who kind of likes the Jedi lore stuff, I did think it was interesting that they sort of had just a wide variety of lightsabers and lightsaber stances that Cal Kestis was using, because you had the double saber technique that was used in one part, and then you had kind of like the great sword style that Kylo Ren used that was shown off too. Just a bunch of interesting styles. So as someone who quite liked Jedi Fallen Order, this one will be interesting to see what all those different saber types do, if it meaningfully changes the gameplay or opens up certain avenues of combat and things like that. I'll be extremely curious to see how it pans out.
Yeah, it would be interesting if having a different stance or a different type of lightsaber does something different on that end, except like different animations. Next up, Death Stranding 2 is confirmed. I kind of lost that bet. I honestly did not think Sony would want to have another Death Stranding, but here we are. Norman Reedus, Lea Seydoux are all in it, and it seems like it's Elle Fanning is also in the game. More cryptic stuff that was shown off in the game, I guess. But yeah, I'm just surprised that they are doing another Death Stranding. To be completely honest, I know it sold pretty well, but it was a very divisive game, and Sony is not the type of company that willingly, or I would say willingly, that wants to release divisive games, because Days Gone did sell pretty well, but they're not doing another one. Why is that? And my guess is because not the fan base was kind of split as to what their feelings on it, and that's why they didn't continue forward with it. So I'm actually really surprised they went for another Death Stranding.
Though it was kind of nice hearing what the next Kojima project was, because I know for the majority of this year, just the Kojima production site had a real cryptic little caption of "Who am I?" and then whenever there was a new actor introduced or actress, it would show the picture of the new person that was being cast by the studio, and then their name, and then it would flash back to the "Who am I?" caption. And of course, there was wild speculation on what this project was. Some people were like, "Oh man, just maybe it's just some sort of new project." And of course, you had everyone else going, "No, it's got to be another Death Stranding project because the ending just left the door wide open for a sequel." So you had all this sort of speculation going on about it, and then finally just to actually get the confirmation, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're also making another Death Stranding." It was kind of nice to have a little bit of closure to the whole speculation saga.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, did you get to play Death Stranding at all, or do you know a lot of people who've seen it or who've played it? Because everything I've heard is either it's got a good story, I guess it's interesting, but the gameplay is kind of bland, or I've heard mixed things. Like,
Yeah,
so.
I bought the PS5 remaster, I want to say earlier this year, and I played maybe about 2 or 3 hours of it, and I was just like, this is interesting. I still think that this is likely not my kind of game. I was just like, but I'm all for the weirdness and the art of it, but yeah, I do not think this is my kind of game and everything. And I mean, it's got an interesting story premise and everything. But I know some people who do criticizing it, have been making the criticism of, yeah, this is FedEx, the walking simulator.
Yeah. Yeah. And unless they're going to do something wildly different in this, I don't see them getting more sales out of this. Like, I honestly, unless they change Death Stranding drastically, I don't see it making as much sales as the first one did. So I'm really curious as to what more they show and what they'll do with Death Stranding 2 in this. We have no date. We don't know when it will happen. So we'll see as that comes.
Yeah, and as always with a Kojima game, it'll be ready when it's ready.
Right. Nightingale had a new trailer. Survival games are not my bag. They really are not. But even I can say that this game looks interesting. It has a unique art. It has a very different art style, and it's got some different things that maybe if I were to give it, I might give it a shot. If I ever want to try a survival game, but survival games are your bag. So why don't you tell everyone what you thought of it?
It was kind of neat that I think this trailer really expanded more on the story. That just you get thrown through a dimensional gate, and essentially you're trying to repair the dimensional gate so you can travel to where you need to go. But it ends up opening sort of a giant nexus of worlds that you can kind of warp to different worlds and gather resources and everything. And it's got what looked like block style Minecraft sort of base building stuff going on, which is interesting, especially just if you end up doing something like setting up a multiplayer game with you and 3 of your friends, and you just sort of hunker down and fight off whatever swarms end up attacking your base and everything. So yeah, I think this that Nightingale could potentially be a really interesting game for people who are looking to stream something on Twitch, especially if you've got a couple friends and you're sort of doing a building a base together sort of thing. Overall, just really, really neat looking. I may see about trying to get it, mostly because just I love playing these sorts of games with a good group of people and everything. So yeah, just overall, they didn't really show too much on the gameplay stuff, unfortunately. But I imagine whatever footage that they were showing was probably pre-alpha or alpha footage of how the systems are going or something.
I will say they are showing a lot of Nightingale when they do. Like the
Oh
one from
yeah,
was it the PC gaming show from June? They showed a ton of that game. Like I think it was like
oh
10 minutes
yeah,
worth, right? So
oh yeah, I believe so.
they're not shy about showing it. So that's a good sign. But
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Tekken 8 had a gameplay trailer. No date that I saw that I remember at least. But I would venture to guess it's 2023. I'm surprised by the mixed feelings on this. Like, I think it looks like Tekken. I mean, okay, and Tekken 7 was great, so I'm looking forward to seeing how 8 is. I was surprised that the feelings towards Tekken 8 went from, oh my god, can't wait, to then seeing this gameplay trailer and going, oh, this is like shit. What happened? I didn't I didn't feel like it looked like crap. I thought it looked like Tekken. Like I didn't like it. So I don't understand what the problem is. And I think people saw the previous trailers and thought that was gameplay when clearly it was not gameplay. That all was what I thought to be just a concept trailer or just a cinematic trailer that looked like the game in some certain extent. So I don't get the hate with this. It looks like a Tekken game. What are your thoughts?
As someone who casually plays Tekken, I thought it looked like just another solid looking Tekken game, and the fighting game community sentiments seem to echo mine, especially because when that trailer dropped, I saw the fighting game community making jokes, making the meme joke about Tekken of this is some more good ass Tekken. And I was just like, all right, well, it seems like the fighting game community is generally happy with it, and I think the sentiment of oh god, this looks like crap and stuff like that. It might if this is like early alpha footage, then they clearly don't understand game development cycles. That just maybe Bandai Namco is more focused on hey, let's make sure this actually plays like a good Tekken game. We'll do art cleanup and stuff on the later stages of the game, but let's make sure we've got a solid foundation first. And from what I've seen in sort of past fighting game development, that's generally the case, that they want to make sure that they've got a solid base to build on, and then from there they'll just go, okay, we've got a solid base, let's build and clean up until release. So maybe that's all this is. That maybe the early trailer just with some gameplay footage is just that. Maybe it's just a very early build, and maybe it'll clean up and look super pretty by the time it gets a little bit closer to release, whenever that is. I think in order to qualify for the next Evo, they would have to get the game out at the latest by April. Maybe May. June would be way too damn close. But if they really want to make this the game to show off at Evo, then they would need to make sure to get the game out at the earliest by sometime in April, and just make sure it's mostly mechanicals are solid, and then just make sure that the game looks good enough, and then they can just do more patching and refining later on. Who knows? But yeah, that's kind of my general take on it, being a fighting game nerd.
I don't think it's going to be ready by then. If anything, I think they'll show off more of it at Evo. From what it looks like, if they haven't announced a date they did not announce a date, correct? Am I right on that? Or Am
Yeah,
I
I do not
misremembering?
believe that. I believe that there was not a date announced.
Yeah, there is no date. If there was going to be, if there isn't a date now, it's not going to be in the next 6 months. I think this is going to be a holiday game. I think this will be October or November. Or, hey, it might turn out to be the following year. They should not worry about whether it's ready for Evo, because look at what happened with Street Fighter V when they did that. Like, they clearly wanted to make Street Fighter V a esports game. And that game took a couple of years just to get to the state of which at which it should have been. So I don't think that's a good idea. They should just concentrate on making the game, and if it comes out after Evo, perfectly fine. It doesn't matter. I think it's probably going to be end of year on this one. So we'll see as that time comes. Horizon Forbidden West DLC Burning Shores was announced, coming in April. This is not a surprise at all. This was leaked, or I think there was either it was a leak or it was heavily rumored to be there, and a lot of people agreed that it was going to be. They did the same thing with the Horizon Zero Dawn DLC, so this is not something that is surprising, and something tells me it will be just like that. I think it was the Frozen Wilds is what it was called. It will be DLC that will give you a much more difficult area to traverse through after you beat the main game. So, yeah, looks interesting. I'm gonna guess that people who really liked Forbidden West will want to get this DLC. I don't think it's a lot more. I don't think it's as much as they believe it is, though. Because I remember when Zero Dawn came out, and everyone loved that, and were excited for the DLC. There were a lot more criticisms on Forbidden West, so I don't know how well the DLC will be. But yeah, we'll definitely see on that. That's coming April. What are your thoughts?
I thought that Forbidden West was a fine enough game. It was just kind of more iterating on Zero Dawn, which I really enjoyed Zero Dawn and everything. So yeah, overall, my opinion on it was, just cool. More DLC for a game that I had quite a bit of fun with. I ended up actually just doing a 100% complete run on it too, because I ended up just completing most of the quests and trophies just along the way. And I think by the end, when I got to the end of the game, I was maybe missing one or two trophies, and I was just like, oh well, if only just missing a couple trophies, then yeah, let me just go ahead and do them. And didn't feel like a grind doing them either. So it wasn't like, hey, so this particular trophy is based on RNG, so you better hope you got godly luck for this.
Oh yeah, I hate those. I don't think it will sell. I'm not sure how much more that Forbidden West sold aside from Zero Dawn. So that also matters. But I think a lot of people dropped off of Forbidden West. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I can't remember just how bad the drop off rate was or anything, but I know for me, just I was kind of in between jobs when I was playing it, but I managed to, I think, rip through the game within like 2 weeks and clocked in close to 38 hours or something.
That's coming in April. We'll see how that turns out. Diablo 4 was given a release date for June. Good lord. June is going to be busy, dude. Holy
yes,
crap.
yes.
So not only am I getting Diablo 4, I'm also getting Street Fighter 6. Oh my god, I'm not playing anything else. There was no gameplay. It was a cinematic trailer. It's gotten a lot of people excited for what the story might be in Diablo 4. So there's really not much to talk about other than that. But Diablo 4 getting a June release date is pretty cool. My concern is that a lot of people who are in not only the main beta, but they were also in the end game beta, have said the end game is not that deep, which is kind of a problem, because either you need to have like a very lengthy campaign, kind of like Path of Exile, where essentially there's a very long campaign that's pretty difficult, or you need to have a robust end game, which is what I think Diablo 3 had. and it doesn't look like this has either right now. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but we'll see what they do with the seasons as well. What are your thoughts?
The trailer was interesting. I think a lot of the more substantial information was talked about before this little trailer was shown off. That, hey, we've got massive branching skill trees. You can do respecs whenever you want to. Just all the things that a lot of action RPG junkies look for in games like Diablo and everything. I think a lot of the commentary was the vibe of this story trailer seems to match the vibe of like Diablo 2. So for anyone who is really, really, really into just sort of like the dark, macabre vibe of Diablo 2, it looks like you're probably going to be pretty happy with the direction Diablo 4 is going.
Which I get. I know a lot of people miss the look of Diablo 2. It didn't bother me so much for some reason. Like I was fine with it being a little bit more artistic, but if the game still turns out to be as good as Diablo 3 was, then it doesn't really matter. I'll still play it. I do agree with you that the skill trees and the paragon trees and everything are like huge and look really interesting. So I will give it that. I just am curious as to what the end game is, because really, you only beat the game once, and then you have end game, and the end game is supposed to, and in every one, the end game, and in 3 specifically, lasted a long time. Like I played end game Diablo 3 for years. I guess we'll see about.
Hopefully, either they refine the end game issues that are currently plaguing the closed beta that's going on right now, or they end up maybe doing a revamp that gets the end game to something closer to what players want. Because much like you, I spent an unhealthy amount of time playing end game Diablo 3, and it got more fun, at least for me, playing it on Switch when it came out on Switch, because just I was able to just take the game with me on the go, and then just when I was on break at one of my jobs, I would just break out my Switch and go, all right, let's go crank out a Greater Rift for fun, and then just crank one out within like 5 minutes or something, and go, all right, cool, that was good. Okay, got 25 minutes left on my lunch break. Yeah, let me just go do some more.
Yeah.
So just hopefully they can solve that. Thankfully, I think it's been announced for Xbox Game Pass, so thankfully I don't have to really worry about putting money down and then going, oh man, this game is really underwhelming. Jesus.
Yeah.
Nope. This was a poor purchase, so thankfully that's not too big a concern for me. But much like you, June is just going to be such a busy month, because just if by some crazy miracle just Blizzard nails down Diablo 4 and gets the end game grind just right, that just kind of has people wanting to play more, and they don't end up being overly aggressive with the microtransactions and stuff like that, it may end up pushing me to just go, hey man, just go ahead and throw down the cash, get the deluxe edition with all the goodies, and just really get into the game.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Crash Team Rumble was announced, a team versus team Crash Bandicoot game. We were kind of confused as to what this actually is. I know you thought it was a MOBA. I kind of didn't think so, but I wasn't sure. So
it looked like a platforming MOBA, because you had like Crash and some of the other characters gathering Wumpa fruit and then tossing them into like their team's basket and stuff like that, which that was where kind of I got the MOBA vibe, especially because it was like, I think it was a 5v5 sort of setup too.
Mm-hmm.
And the immediate thought I had was, wow, this is got like a MOBA vibe to it, because it seems very, very similarly structured to something like Pokemon Unite, where you're gathering resources and stuff like that. I didn't really see much on the tower destruction stuff, so maybe that stuff ends up being added to this game later. But yeah, it was one of those things I was like, oh well, that looks curiously interesting, and yeah, it definitely looks like some sort of MOBA.
They didn't announce a release date, except for it's next year. They would probably need to let people know exactly what this is. And I guess the other question is this going to be a $60, $70 game, or is this going to be free to play? Because if you need a lot of people to play this game, it would venture to guess that it's free to play. Would it not?
I'm thinking it's got to be a free to play game. There's just no way, especially with the fact that if it is indeed a MOBA, it's really hard to get people to pay to jump into a MOBA. That's just the nature of the situation. Especially if you were to suddenly announce, hey, by the way, guys, this is a MOBA, so $70, please. You're not going to find a lot of people going, yeah, sure. I don't know if this game will stick around or if it might disappear in like 6 months to a year. Sure, here, you can have my $70. So, yeah, I think that might be the path it goes. And if it does indeed turn out to be a MOBA and takes any sort of cues from like MOBAs in general, I imagine one of the things that they'll probably sell is like beta access via like founders packs or something like that. Like, hey, $70 gets you, big fat stack of microcurrency. Oh, P.S. It unlocks all of the characters currently slated to launch with the first year of the game or something like that.
Yeah, I really don't think it's a MOBA. It sounds more like what's the name of that Splatoon? It sounds like a multiplayer version of Salmon Run is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, but, I mean, it does seem like potentially something like a PvP Salmon Run sort of thing, but yeah, just in my opinion, once we start seeing more stuff, I imagine it could be some sort of weird platformer MOBA sort of thing.
Next up, Company of Heroes 3 is coming to PS5 and Xbox. Man, I do not like RTSs on consoles. I just don't. I'm going to be upfront and honest with you. I know people were saying like Halo Wars and that one Lord of the Rings game was really good on consoles, but I cannot play an RTS on consoles. I don't care how they develop it. So, and Company of Heroes is going to be on console. That's not an incredibly complex game, but it's complex enough where you need a keyboard and mouse, I would say, to do the game right. So this has me a little worried because if it's going to be on console, is this going to be dumbed down? Like I'm a little worried about this. So it's great that other people get to play it. I get it, but if it really affects the gameplay, I'm not too excited. Have you played any of the Company of Heroes games?
Have not. I think I got a bunch of them from like a Humble Bundle way back.
Yeah.
But I will say this with respect to modern consoles. Modern consoles do have the benefit of keyboard and mouse support.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And I could easily see the developers behind Company of Heroes maybe putting some sort of like keyboard and mouse support or something. It wouldn't be hard to do, especially since I think at least on the Xbox side, it's Microsoft has talked about how it's so easy that it's like a toggle to enable keyboard and mouse support. I know PS5 has keyboard and mouse support because that's how I play Final Fantasy XIV on it. Otherwise, I just can't do it on controller.
Yeah. Like then they've tried to do MOBAs on consoles too, and they just do not work. So if it doesn't dumb down the PC version at all, then fine. But I just don't see how they're going to do that. But we'll see. No data for that one yet. I'll be curious to see how that turns out. From Software announced a new game, Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. I was genuinely excited for this until I remembered what Armored Core was, and I liked the Armored Core games from PS1, but the newer ones, the ones for like the 360 and the PS2, didn't hit well with me. So there was a reason why Armored Core eventually From Software stopped making them. I guess either they kind of ran out of ideas or whatnot. I don't know. But as excited as I am for it, I'm wondering if Armored Core just stopped for good reasons. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I wonder if... Obviously, From Software is a development house that can now do whatever the hell it wants because it has such a track record with the Soulsborne games that if they want to do a game where you just take a shit in a fucking hole and that's the whole game and you spend $70 for it, Sony would spend $100 million to develop it just because it's from... But that being said, like... Again, I'm excited to see what this is and what they're doing with it. But another part of me is like, I think Armored Core died for a reason. So unless you're going to do something pretty different with it, or you're going to do something that makes a lot of sense, I don't think a lot of people are going to look towards playing another Armored Core when they realize, oh, it's Armored Core. Right. I remember this. This hasn't been good since the PS1.
I think really the big reason that there's excitement is that Hidetaka Miyazaki is taking over leading development on Armored Core.
Okay.
So this has been sort of something that has been a dream level project for him, because I know there were some interviews earlier this year with Miyazaki-san, and they were just one of the big questions that a bunch of review outlets, both in English and Japanese, have asked him, hey, if there was one non-Souls project that you would love to revisit, work on, fuck around with, what would be that project? And consistently, he has always said, I would love to give the Armored Core series a crack, because I think that there could be some improvements done to the series to make it much more fun and engaging to play, and also maybe make it fruitful and challenging for the players too. And that's sort of been his general stance on it. So honestly, it'll be curious to see if it ends up being another sweaty try-hard game that ends up being produced out of this, and then this becomes the mecha nerd dream of, oh my god, mecha and Dark Souls, best game ever, sort of like fairy tale. But yeah, it's too early to tell, especially with no gameplay footage at all. It was just your general cinematic announcement trailer with just lots of mech porn and close-ups of targeting systems, missiles and guns, and just the usual stuff that any Gundam fan would just get so wet and weak in the knees over it.
He cut his teeth on Armored Core. He was a planner on Last Raven, and then he directed 4 and 5, which are the worst ones, literally. But I want to give him some benefit of the doubt. Maybe working on the Demon Souls and Dark Souls games has made him into a much better director, so that maybe if he has Armored Core, he can turn it into something different and a lot better than what it was. Initially I was excited, but then I really thought about it, and I'm like, wait, what more could you do? Because if you really change it up, you're going to piss off the fans that were waiting for that game. But if you make it the exact same thing, you're going to have the same problems. So what are you going to do here? So I'm curious. You're right. We should see gameplay first before we really dive into it. But a part of me, as excited as I am, is like, yeah, but I don't know if this is going to work. So we'll see. We'll see when that happens. No date was talked about. Final Fantasy XVI had a release date announced, and it's, guess what month? June. Oh, Lord. Yes, June 22nd, I think, was the date for Final Fantasy XVI. I hope they delay that. I really do. Because that will... I really want to play it, but with Diablo and... what was the other game? Diablo and Street Fighter 6 coming out that same month. Final Fantasy 16 might be the one I pass on. But yeah.
Yeah, that one I know that I'll have to buy. I'll have to buy it day one because um, my girlfriend is a huge Final Fantasy fan, and she is one who loads missing out. So
Mhm.
I imagine likely I will have to pick that up, and likely she'll abscond with that copy so fast to play on her own PS5.
Yeah.
So for me, it'll be like, okay, cool. She's playing it. I'm still in my Diablo grind. I'll get to Final Fantasy 16 when I get to it.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do on that one? But yeah, I'm excited for it. The trailers have been excellent. The trailer for this one was really good too. So I am properly excited for this. But
Yeah, it's got quite the dream team. I mean, you've got Naoki Yoshida leading the game. You've got the battle designer for Devil May Cry 5, so that's why it's got the action game feel to it. And of course, the trailers have been nothing short of just really, really good. You've got kind of a darkish sort of storyline going for it, which is kind of Yoshi P's wheelhouse. So, yeah, just really, really going to be interesting. I will add this. Japan got a special announcement regarding Final Fantasy 16. They're getting a absolutely bonkers collector's edition.
yeah.
And it's just going to be for PS5 only. You get the game, a special DLC sword, a steelbook case, 8 pins, a I assume cloth map of the world's universe, a gigantic Ifrit statue where he's just murdering Garuda, and then this all gets packed up in a special collector's box with artwork by Yoshitaka Amano. And this box, when I say insane, it is pretty insane. It is priced at 38,500 yen, or at the current time of this recording, with the conversion rates, this is going to be roughly $283. We have not seen an announcement if this thing is coming to the West. So I'll be really interested to see. I won't be getting it because I don't have room
Yeah.
for that giant statue. But yeah, I imagine anyone who's just a extremely hardened Final Fantasy fan is probably just on Square Enix socials every day right now, begging, going, "Hey, is the West getting it? Hey, is the West getting it?"
I've heard nothing but big buzz for this game, so I think this will sell really well when it comes out. I just wish it was another month, but oh well. What are you going to do on that one? That comes out June 22nd of next year. Blue Protocol was announced from Amazon Games and Bandai Namco Online. It's coming out the second half of next year. It is a free-to-play MMORPG that's for PC, Xbox Series X, and PS5. I don't know the type of gameplay this has, but it at least looks interesting-ish. I mean, it looks beautiful, and the animation looks pretty good, but I would like to know more about what this game is. So, until then, I'm curious, but there's not really much more to go on with this. It was more cinematics than anything else.
Definitely looking sort of like, I want to say, kind of like a anime Fantasy Star Online sort of thing going on. Especially with the whole, hey, you've got like 4 players cooperating against bosses and stuff like that. So if this ends up being just like a 4-player action RPG where you do like dungeons and stuff like that, yeah, I could probably be interested. I'll definitely take a look at it and everything. But yeah, just unfortunately, with no substantial gameplay to show off or anything, just I honestly don't know what to say right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what more they come up with when they start rolling it out when it comes in the second half of next year. Crime boss Rockay City was announced from 505 Games. This has a lot of big actors from the 80s and 90s, and it's got a style like I would describe it as a style between Scarface the movie and Vice City, GTA. And GTA Vice City is my favorite GTA, so that had me really excited. And with the stars that are in it is got me really interested. I am fairly certain this is not going to sell well at all. I don't care how good the quality is. I don't see a lot of people being interested in a game that fashions itself to 80s and 90s action crime dramas. I just don't see it. So,
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just going to be like a multiplayer only thing or if it's going to be a multiplayer PvE thing. It's just it was just kind of hard to say when they were just more focused on look at all these wonderful 80s actors that we've got on board.
yeah. It didn't look like a was it? Did they announce it was multiplayer? I thought it was a single player type of action game. I didn't.
It looked like a multiplayer game, at least in my eyes, but I could be dead wrong on that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything in regards to what type of game it is. But in the basis of story and what they're going for, I mean, it could be interesting. But like I said, I don't think this is going to sell very well. And as cool as it is to have Michael Madsen in it, you have to remind people of who Michael Madsen is, okay? Like, the only person that I would think that you may not have to remind people about is Danny Trejo. And Danny Trejo is not an actor. As much as I like him, he's not an actor that can sell movies or games. Unless you count Machete. But other than that, I don't see this selling very well with the talent it has. I'm interested. Don't get me wrong, but I hopefully they have more with gameplay in that. But Crime Boss Rockay City, I don't think they announced the date for that.
It has actually got a date on the Epic Store, March 28th of 2023. The game is does have co-op multiplayer on it.
Okay.
So yeah, just the multiplayer's PvE. And up to 4 players, but yeah, it's also got some single player stuff too. But yeah, just when I kind of saw the game, I was just like, yeah, I'm not really sure how this is going to pan out, especially the fact that the retail price is going to be $40. Though if you pre-order on the Epic Store has a 20% off discount, so it brings it down to $32. And for anyone despising the whole like multiple editions, you're in luck. This game just has one edition, just the base game. So, $32 for the base game comes out in late March. So, decide whether or not it's for you or not.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that turns out. I just do not think it will sell very well. So that's Crime Boss Rockay City coming out in March. Transformers Reactivate was also announced. It's a co-op action game from Splash Damage. I don't think they showed much on this, but as much as I'm not a fan of Transformers, I will admit that if they do Transformers right, they end up being very good games. I'm thinking about War of Cybertron. I'm thinking about the one that Platinum did for the PS4. Was it Destructor? What was it called? Devastator or Devastation? That was a really good game.
Devastation, I think.
So they can make pretty good Transformers games. But there's not much else to this right now. So Splash Damage is a decent development house, so maybe they can make something interesting off of it. So that's all I've got for that. You got more that you want to add?
Yeah, hopefully this is a project that goes over well because Splash Damage has not really had a great track record lately. One of my favorite games from them was Brink, and while Brink was fun, it had some major issues, and just unfortunately, just that sort of ended up just panning out poorly for the game, and it ended up quickly being abandoned. Then I think Dirty Bomb has kind of had a hit or miss history, with some updates being great and then some updates being not so good. Yeah, so with this one holding on to a major IP, I really, really hope for Splash Damage that this one goes off quite well because, it's not going to go great for them, especially if it ends up poorly, because I imagine just if it does, you may have Hasbro going, yeah, so let's go ahead and discontinue that license, and then soon afterwards, you'll end up seeing an announcement of, hey, so we're going to have to close up our game, and thanks for the fish, we're out of here.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see how that turns out when they announce a date. I don't think they've even announced a date for that. So yeah. Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 had a gameplay trailer. This looks great. This looks really good, which is what I think both of us were kind of afraid of. Was the look of the game when it came out, because even though Space Marine did pretty well sales wise, it wasn't that much of a looker even back then. But this looks like they put a ton of work on it. They did a lot of detail, and it looks really good. So I'm looking forward to it. What about you?
Yeah, this one, for me, my reaction can be summed up by like a Simpsons clip right here. That this could be like the Homer clip of where he's just like, yes, yes, oh God, yes. Because just when I saw just how crazy the hordes of just monsters were, I was just like, oh my God, this is just like peak Warhammer 40K lore right here. Just Space Marines just hacking up just swats and swats of just alien factions. I was like, yep, this is exactly what the lore writes out some of the great conflicts of the Space Marines look like. That it's just tons and tons and tons of opponents, and you've got these just super superhuman characters just shredding dudes up with boltors and chainsaw swords and everything. And I was just like, yep, this is coming together just exactly like what I want. Just it's true to the lore, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, like I said, the one thing I was a little worried about was how the game would look, but this took away that fear. Like, I was like, okay, this looks amazing, so I am looking forward to it. So no date as of right now. Is it still, or did they announce their date previously? I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I don't think it's this year. I think it's this next coming year, but we'll see. We'll see if more is being told about it as time goes on. I think the only other announcement we have, unless you have something I forgot, is Remnant 2, which is deeply ironic because you've been playing Remnant from the Ashes for the past week.
2 weeks actually, yeah.
Oh wow! Okay.
And it was something that a close friend of mine sent me during the Steam Thanksgiving sale. So yeah, just been putting just massive time into it and everything. And while Remnant 1 had its issues, the cinematic stuff that they're setting up with some of the gameplay stuff that they're setting up just looks really, really neat. So I know a lot of Remnant fans are wondering if some of the jank will be sorted out, because melee is definitely not the strong point of the game.
No, it's not. No.
Especially since there are some moments where just some of the bosses just have like some inhuman tracking for some of the melee attacks and everything. So I know a lot of the Remnant fans are like, yeah, I hope that they sort this out, or sort out the melee combat stuff, because I like melee combat more than ranged, and some people are just like, I hope that they've got some more varied options on range combat, which I think that's definitely more true this time around, because one of the characters in this gameplay trailer had kind of a longbow and arrow setup. So there's that. You've got a tribute to the Resident Evil 4 Chainsaw Man in here, with a monster just trying to rip up one of the Remnant player characters and everything. So yeah, just looks interesting. I have yet to get the true ending, which one of the Remnant DLCs added, so I need to get cracking on that. But yeah, just be interesting to see where story-wise this whole thing fits in with respect to the true ending of Remnant from the Ashes. But yeah, just I'll be really, really watching this one closely, especially since The studio behind it is Gunfire Games, which, for anyone who may not be familiar with the name, they were behind the Darksiders games. And unfortunately, with the last Darksider game underperforming massively, this seems to be sort of the studio's outlet to make something of themselves.
Okay. Well, they're given a property that basically overperformed in terms of what people thought of it. So let's hope they pull that off. No date for Remnant 2 as of right now.
Yeah, I believe that they've put it up for wish listing on Steam so far.
Okay.
And they've mentioned that they'll have pre-orders up for some of the other online game stores and stuff like PSN and Xbox. Meet Your Maker, that one looked interesting as hell.
Meet Your Maker. Meet Your Maker. Hold on.
That was the one where you build the dungeon.
Oh,
and
yes!
You and your friends sort of like scale the dungeon and everything.
Yes, that did look interesting. I completely forgot about that. It's not, none of the sites are covering it, but I guess that's kind of why I forgot about it. But yeah, that did look interesting. Looks good, but yeah, the concept itself is, I think, what really matters in that. It reminded me of Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. Do you remember that game?
Yes.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that, but hopefully it's executed a lot better. But yeah, that definitely looked like an interesting game to check out. I got to remember that one. Okay.
Yeah, it comes out April 4th and everything too. So yeah, I think really the one thing that I'll be real curious about is they say it's coming out for PC on Steam, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. Mm-hmm. I really do hope that they have cross-platform multiplayer because that would just be great to just help filling with lobbies and everything. Because, yeah, I just love the idea of someone building a raid map and then just everyone just kind of grouping up and going, okay, let's try to take on this map and see if we can get to the end and get to the sweet loot or whatever.
Okay, so overall, the announcements that were announced from the Game Awards, what were your thoughts? I thought this was a pretty strong showing for what the Game Awards had.
Oh yeah, generally most things were shown off. Seemed like they were pretty good or exciting announcements. So overall, I think everything was a strong showing for the most part. I do hate that some games were just, hey, here's a giant story trailer, and just or not story trailer, but here's a cinematic trailer, just showing how pretty the game looks off and whatever. So I was just like, okay, nice. But yeah, just the trailers that did show substantial gameplay, definitely great to see. It was just like, okay, I have a general understanding of what this game's about, and either it's for me or not for me. So great, excited for this game. Hey, gameplay was shown for this game. Not quite my game, but probably exciting for anyone who's hyped for this game.
I was impressed with what they shown on here, and it's just going to further cement that the Game Awards is now a vital part of the gaming calendar for announcements and everything. So it basically is going to be E3 is going to announce everything that's coming from June to, I would say, December, and then the Game Awards will be the following year, January through June, with some exceptions, of course. So I think this was for the announcements, it was pretty strong. And it was also a decent show. I thought some things went a little too long, like award speeches, but that can't be helped. But yeah, it was a decent show. I actually liked it. Most years I begrudgingly say, yeah, it's good for what it was. But this is actually turning into a pretty entertaining show because I think Keighley and the people who run it realize what people want to watch. And it's not the awards, it's the announcements. So, yeah, good show overall, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely a solid show, and again, just it's a testament to Jeff Keighley building what something a little bit closer to what he wants, especially since just the dark days of the award show back when it was on Spike TV were bad.
Oh my God. That was horrible.
Those were dark
God.
days.
I mean, when Jack Black did it that one year, it was okay. But, like, wasn't Neil Patrick Harris an award host one year? And you could tell he did not want to be there. He was like, I don't play games like you freaking nerds. I'm like, oh, good Lord. It's like, it was a decent show, and it will be interesting to look forward to what happens next. Thank you for listening to this podcast segment. The Capital Games podcast is done every week, and we post it on all your favorite podcast apps, as well as segments on YouTube. If you want to listen to another segment, you can listen to a new one right there on the screen. We also do a movie podcast called the Capital Games Movie Club. If you'd like, you can go ahead and click on that and see all the movies that we have reviewed from that point. Thank you for listening, and we hope to hear from you soon.